On the 89th episode of the HatTrick Sports Podcast, we're going to be talking about some NFL signings and trades, talk about some MLB Spring Training news. We're going to be ranking the top 5 MLB expansion cities and ending it off with some Hall of Fame. Yay or nay. Make sure you use code HatTrick Sports when checking out at w.gg for 10% off your order. Roll it. Welcome to HatTrick Sports, starring your host, Isaiah Carpenter. Bringing you the biggest sports headlines every week. This is the HatTrick Sports Podcast. But we're going to start it off with the NFL news first. A whole bunch of signings in the last few hours, in the last few days, and we're going to go over all of them up until about, 5 minutes ago. Because the most recent one was 5 minutes ago. That is how often these re-signings and signings are happening. The Vikings are re-signing running back Aaron Jones to a 2-year, $20 million deal. So we'll go more into that. But again, that just happened, 6 minutes? 20 minutes ago. That happened 20 minutes ago, and that's just going to keep going on live on the podcast. But first, we are going to talk about my fellow Seahawks. The Seahawks are not looking good. They have lost a whole bunch of guys. It started off, they released Tyler Lockett. All right, I get it. They want to open up some money. They have to get rid of Tyler Lockett. So they get rid of Tyler Lockett. And then that being known, DK Metcalf requests a trade. Now, maybe DK knew a little bit more than what we knew, because later, about a day later, is when the Seahawks traded Geno Smith from the Seahawks to the Raiders for a third-round pick. I mean, we were literally less than one game away from winning the division, and now we have to kind of restart. The only guy that we have right now is JSN, and we literally lost our best 3 guys, and it sucks being a Seahawks fan right now. I've heard rumors that we might get Sam Darnold. Aaron Rodgers might be in the mix. I don't know what we're going to do, but it's not looking good. I would be fine if we saw Drew Lock, but we gave him to the Giants a couple years ago because Geno was supposed to be the future of the Seahawks. Obviously, that wasn't true. And what makes it worse is that Geno Smith is going to Pete Carroll's team, and Pete Carroll obviously left the Seahawks because he wanted to retire, which we later found out was a lie, and that he came back the next year later. So, the Seahawks are turning into a poverty team. They went 10-7 last year. The only reason why they didn't make the playoffs is because the Rams kicked it on that the last few weeks and ended up tying us in record and had the tiebreaker for the division. And now we have just given up. We have given up. We are going to go 3-14 and are going to be like the Browns. We are going to have the second round pick in a couple of years. Not good. It's up to JSN to bring home the gold, and the front office better have a plan, because this is not working. This is not going to work. It's just not a good time to be a Seahawks fan. Very uncertain time to be a Seahawks fan. But yeah, within 3 days, we lost Lockett. DK is technically still on the team, but he's not going to be for very long. And then we got rid of Geno Smith. So it would make me feel better if we kept DK Metcalf, but I think we might trade him. I think it's actually a very high probability that we trade him. Just not good at all to be a Seahawks fan. And then the Bills also released an 8-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champion, Von Miller, pass rusher Von Miller. They were just trying to. It opens up $8.4 million in cap space, and I think that they might sign him again once that time comes, but he's not. As of right now, he is not on the Bills. Frees up cap space. I think it had to be for good. I think Wednesdays when it's the cutoff. But yeah, and then not signing or re-signing or cut news. Xavier Worthy is in a little bit of trouble. Was arrested a few days ago on assault to a family member or somebody that was living in his household by basically strangling them. That is what basically the police report said. He was. It's a felony account. He's not going to be charged with anything. I think they're just going to drop it. And he posted on his Instagram just a few hours ago saying new beginnings. So something along those lines at the time of this recording. Again, I think it's something, maybe family issues. I don't think it's that, well, obviously, if he's being charged, I think it's a big deal. All this is alleged. He just got arrested and is now out of jail as of right now. I don't know if there's going to be more on the story. We don't know a whole lot. We just know that he was strangling somebody in his house and that there will be no charges brought among him. That's all we know right now. I guess that's all we really need to know. We don't really need to know any further. I think they're just going to drop the case, and so be it. Whatever. Now on to the real stuff. Who teams re-signed and signed just in the last few days. So the Giants re-signed Tommy DeVito for a 1 year. It's like a $1.003 million deal. Good for the Giants. I mean, it's smart for them to re-sign him. The Commanders re-signed Zach Ertz, so 1 year, and he can get up to $9 million. The Lions re-signed defensive end Marcus. That's Davenport. Yeah, the Lions re-signed defensive end Marcus Davenport to a 1 year, $4.75 million deal. Marquise Hollywood Brown is going to the Chiefs, returning to the Chiefs for a 1 year, $11 million extension. Levante David, what does that say? Re-signs with the Bucks for a 1 year, $10 million extension. You have Bobby Wagner, old friend alert with the Seahawks. Please come back. This is when we need you. He signs with the Commanders for a 1 year, $9.5 million deal. The Chiefs re-signed Nick Bolton to a 3 year, $45 million a year. What a payday for him. I mean, $15 million a year is not bad for somebody like Nick Bolton. Defensive tackle Jaron Reed re-signs with Seattle. Finally, it's about time. The Seahawks kept somebody. But it's a 3 year, $25 million deal. The Browns, record-breaking extension just happened a few hours ago. Probably the first podcast you are listening to since that has happened, especially if you're listening to this live. But Myles Garrett and the Browns agreed to a record contract. It averages $40 million per year and includes $123.5 million in guaranteed money, making this defensive end the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Now, the full contract has not been released yet. Again, this happened 6 hours ago, and we are still learning details on that as this is coming out. I have the 1 second. I have the free agent tracker up right now, so if any big things happen during the podcast, I can see it. But the extension, this Myles Garrett extension includes a no-trade clause and reestablishes Garrett's Hall of Fame trajectory that he referred to as Cleveland to Canton. The sides agreed to the deal 2 days after the report circulated that Browns owner Jimmy Haslam recently declined a request to meet with Garrett over the trade request and instead referred the four-time All-Pro to Barry. Both Garrett and the Browns have been dug in on their prospective stance. The former Defensive Player of the Year wanted to be traded to contender, and the organization was adamant that they would not do the request. They would not abide by the request. Garrett officially announced his trade request on February 3rd, saying in a statement that his goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It was always been to compete for the win. He just wants to win the Super Bowl. That's basically what he says. Good for Myles Garrett. Good for the Browns. The Browns, I think, went 13-14 last season. They have the second pick this season, and this might be the start of the up and up. It's concave up. It's the very beginning of the concave up. It's about to go up. What other news do we have? I think that's all NFL news that we have for today. Just a whole bunch of stuff. Again, we have the live tracker right here. Let me find it in my live. I'm just gonna look up the live NFL signing tracker, and we'll keep that up. Yeah, Aaron Jones was the most recent one. Jaron Reed a few hours ago. So I don't know how often it updates, but yeah, it should be an exciting few days, and then it really gets started in I think on Wednesday is when it officially begins. But yes, that is all NFL news. On to MLB and spring training. There have been a few injuries in spring training. Most notable is Giancarlo Stanton and Garrett Cole. Both sound like their arms not doing so hot. So we'll start off with Garrett Cole, obviously pitcher and cheater for the Yankees. Is concerned about his right elbow, and it sounds like it might be a Tommy John issue, which would keep him out for the season, unless he pulls a Shohei. But yeah, not looking good for Garrett Cole. I'm hoping it's not Tommy John, even though he's a cheater and I hate him, but it sounds like it's going to be Tommy John. And then Giancarlo Stanton has severe injuries in both elbows, and I guess in the next few days they're going to test him, and if he needs surgery, that would be season-ending and potentially career-ending, which obviously I've been watching him for his entire career. He debuted in 2014 with the Marlins, and he's been good ever since. Obviously, the last few years have been down years for him, but you got to root for the guy. I mean, what a power hitter, what a hitter in general, and you got to root for Giancarlo Stanton. Mets catcher Francisco Alvarez is out for 6 to 8 weeks. Again, this is just kind of recent, so we're going to scroll down to that tab and read more on it. I just had it open. Where is it? We need Alvarez. Francisco Alvarez. Here we go. Broken helmet bone. I don't know even where that is in your body. He will undergo surgery on his broken left hamate bone and miss 6 to 8 weeks. Manager Carlos Mendoza told reporters Sunday, another blow to a team already dealing with spring training injuries. The Mets have done a lot in the offseason. They have picked up a lot of guys. They have dropped a lot of guys that they don't need. And I'm excited to watch. The Mets this season. I think that the Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, and even Red Sox are going to be great contenders for the World Series this season. And again, I don't want injuries to come in the way of that. I want the Dodgers to win the World Series legitimately and not like having because of injuries win the World Series, because the Dodgers are definitely going to win the World Series this year, but I want the full competition. I want everything that they give us so we can beat them. Now, the Dodgers and Dave Roberts are expected to sign a record-breaking extension. Dave Roberts, obviously one of the best managers. I've changed my mind on this a whole lot in the last few seasons, but Dave Roberts, I think we can comfortably say, is one of the best managers in baseball right now. I'm going to look up his manager stats. I don't really care what he did as a player. Managerial record. So, as of, he has, here we go. In his career, he has managed over 1,300 games, with 851 of those being wins and just over 500 being losses, with a .627 win-loss percentage. Two-time World Series champion, should have been 3. 4 pennants, and he has one Manager of the Year award. Again, there's not a whole lot of stats that you can bring up to a manager just because they don't play the game. They just manage the team. But Dave Roberts, I mean, one year he didn't really have the team and he lost in the DS, and everybody wants to joke about whatever. But when he's handed the team, he's a really, really good manager. And I believe right now the over-under for Dodgers total wins is 103.5, and that is after last season no teams got over 100 or more wins, and the Dodgers are just getting better. They're getting better, I think, every single day. I mean, at this point, I feel like every time I look at my phone, they've signed somebody new. This new Japanese pitcher is coming up. Like, the Dodgers are going to be that team the Dodgers are the new Yankees. I mean, for 100 years, the Yankees were the best team ever. They always signed the best guys. Now this is the Dodgers. The Dodgers are the best team in the league right now. You just can't do that. So, that being said, he is expected to sign a record-breaking contract with the Dodgers. I did not come prepared because I don't have it pulled up, but it should be Dave Roberts. Here we go. Here we go. This is all according to Aiden Gonzalez. Dave Roberts and the Los Angeles Dodgers are closing in on a long-term extension. Sources confirmed on Thursday. Roberts and the Dodgers have been in serious talks on a new deal since February, and despite being far apart for stretches along the way, the two sides are expected to look into a new deal before the Dodgers leave for Japan because they are playing the Cubs in just 9 days. The MLB season starts in 9 days, and they will open their season in Japan against the Cubs. The largest contract among managers currently belongs to Craig Counsell, who signed a 5-year, $40 million contract when he left the Brewers for the Cubs in November 2023. Roberts' new deal has been widely expected throughout the industry to top Counsell's in either total value or average annual value, if not both, though terms of his potential new deal are not yet known. I mean, this guy has proven what he has. He's not old. Like, you don't have to worry about Dave Roberts dying in the next few years. I say you keep this whole team together. I mean, it's all Shohei's done. Shohei's the greatest baseball player of all time. Do whatever you got to do to keep him happy. And if he likes Dave Roberts, again, another fellow Japanese guy, then just keep him. And you have all these guys to longer contracts. I say 8 years. I mean, is 8 years an absurd amount of time? 8 years, you could give him, I mean, 1 second. You could give him $80 million for 8 years, and I think I would be happy with that. Maybe a little bit less. 60. I think $10 million a year for Dave Roberts is fair, and I think 5 to 8 years is fair. So whether that's 5 years, $50 million, or 8 years, $80 million, even $12 million a year for Dave Roberts should not be a stretch. Again, these guys are just going into the playoffs every single year, and you just got to win those games. That's what he's got to learn. He can't lose into the DS, and I think if you give him $12 million, he will make sure that he wins over 100 games for the next 6 seasons, and that they make it further than the DS. And if you lose in the CS, whatever, and then, like, if you lose in the CS, like, you can't fire a guy for making it to the CS. You know what I'm saying? So, and then, obviously, the end goal is to win the next 6 to 8 World Series with Dave Roberts. So I think he deserves that money. I think he deserves $10 to $12 million a year, and I think 5 to 8 years is fair for Dave Roberts. So if it's less than that, whatever, but I think that's fair. I think that's a fair deal for what he's done with the Dodgers. And I say he's only won 2 World Series, but really, if you take away the Astros cheating scandal, you'll never know what the Yankees would have done, but it could have been 3 in 8 seasons. Imagine... or 4 in 9 seasons, 3 in 9 seasons. I don't know. I'm losing track. But what I'm getting at is Dave Roberts is a great manager, and that this should easily be record-breaking contract. Let's move on to the top 5 MLB expansion cities. So over the last few seasons, obviously, most of the big leagues have 32 teams, but the MLB only has 30 teams. So what would some good expansion teams look like? What cities would they be in? The drafts, everything like that works. But let's go on to the cities. What cities could use an MLB team? Now, I think the current city that I'm living in right now would do great with an MLB team, but obviously that would never happen. At number 5, you have Portland, Oregon. They're known for having their kind of sporty kind of city. They're a sports city, let's be honest. But what you get is you're in between Seattle and California, where there's a whole bunch of teams, and I just don't think a whole lot more teams on the West Coast would do great. But it's at number 5. I think it would work in Portland. At number 4, you have Salt Lake City. I just don't think the population's there. I think Utah is a very, very weird state to have an MLB team in, but I think that if they had one there, it would work. They would be fine. But at number 3, you have Charlotte, North Carolina. You need another team in the hills. You have the Rockies, but imagine on the West Coast and on the East Coast, balls traveling 500 feet in the air. I think that it would work. I don't think it would be the best. It would be hard to kind of travel. But again, they do it in Colorado. But that's why it's at number 3. It makes podium. At number 2, you have Montreal, Canada. Now, it has been, especially in the NFL and MLB, there have been a lot of talks about going international. Obviously, the MLB has the Toronto Blue Jays up north. What about another team in Canada? I'm not complaining. I say you put a team in Mexico. Again, broaden to North America, and then see what you got to do to put more leagues in other places of the world. And I think by the end of my lifetime, there might be a new league in Europe and in Asia. And yeah, I mean, imagine MLB in North America, Europe, and Asia. I think those are 3 continents that could use good leagues, and I think that expanding to Canada and to Mexico would be great for that, and Montreal or Quebec or any one of those in Canada would work great for that. And then the number one best expansion city that the MLB can move to, I think, would be Nashville, Tennessee. Again, you have the Titans. They seem to not as a team, they don't seem to be doing fine. But as a whole, it seems like a good location for them. Why not the MLB? I think that the MLB would do great in Nashville. So those are your top 5 MLB expansion cities. And let's see, in the next few years, could we get 2 more teams in the league? All right, let's move on to the big topic of the week in the NBA. Obviously, Jokic has had his 30-20-20 with a triple-double in a half or whatever he did the other night. Just wild. Jokic is wild. I don't got to talk about that. Everybody else is talking about that. But another thing that a lot of people are talking about, Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James got at it at a Lakers game the other night. So Stephen A. Smith's job, his literal job, is to talk about basketball. Whatever he's got to talk about. He's paid to be passionate about the sport. He's paid to know the sport, and he's paid to make opinions about the sport. That is his job. He makes millions of dollars every year to do that. And that being said, Bronny has been a big topic in the NBA the last few seasons. Well, I guess this is his first season, but he sucks. He was averaging 4-point-something points a game at USC. He sucked. In the G League, he's doing fine. He's doing 25 points a game, whatever. In the NBA, he's averaging 1.4 points a game. Bronny is stuck in a situation I don't think he wants to be in. He can't quit. He just can't quit, and he doesn't belong in the NBA. Averaging 1.4 points a game, just can't. You can't be in the NBA averaging 1.4 points a game. And Stephen A. Smith has the job to talk about that. He creates opinions, and that is what he gets paid for. He gets paid to talk about Bronny's 1.4 points per game and how he's in the NBA somehow. That's fair for him. But LeBron has a high ego. Let's be honest. I don't have anything against LeBron. I like LeBron. I like watching greatness. He's had 50,000 career points. I give all my respect to LeBron. LeBron James, though, decides to come up in public, and it has been announced that they're in the same field. They can talk to each other on the phone. They can text each other. They can meet up somewhere private. LeBron James, Stephen A. Smith's sitting courtside. LeBron James comes up to him. He pretty much yells at Stephen A. Smith, "Keep my son's name out your effing mouth." That is basically what happens. And so Stephen A. Smith, I think, is a very controversial dude, but takes it like a man, sits down, reflects on it. The next day goes on to First Take or whatever, talks about his experience. He apologizes. He says that is LeBron coming from a father point of view, which is true. LeBron trying to stick up for his son. I think LeBron realizes that he's made the situation for his son that he has to, respect his son. He has to defend his son. So Stephen A. Smith says that he apologizes. He's kind of in the wrong, but he also says, hey, LeBron, you have my number. You can find ways to contact me. I'd be happy to talk to you about whatever problems you're having with me. Let's do it privately. You don't need to do that before a game. So that's on LeBron. LeBron shouldn't have done that. And Stephen A. Smith, I think, took it like a man. I think Stephen A. Smith did the right thing. He apologized. He realizes that what he's said about LeBron's son is wrong and that LeBron is sticking up for his son. But I think what this says most is about Bronny. Bronny can stick up for himself. Bronny's an adult. Bronny is a son of one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He can stick up for himself. If he has a problem with Stephen A. Smith, talk to Stephen A. Smith. I don't think any basketball player should ever have a problem with Stephen A. Smith because Stephen A. Smith's job is to talk about basketball. And you can't do, I get it. If he's saying something personal about your son, fine, whatever. You could talk to him, but not in a public stance. Make it a conversation. Don't just yell at him. Hear from both sides. Again, I like Stephen A. Smith. I like LeBron James. I'm not really a fan of Bronny just because I don't think he deserves to be in it, but I don't think Bronny has an option. So it's it's just a situation. I think it's going to be dropped. The situation's going to be dropped. I think that they're fine now, and I think they both go on respectively with their own jobs in the same industry. That's it. That's all you got to do. That's just my thoughts on everything that happened. Just so be it. So be it. Yeah. LeBron, stick up for yourself. LeBron, stop being a crybaby. Stephen A. Smith, keep doing your job. Don't say anything personal about other people's kids. That's what I learned from this. All right, let's talk about what I did this morning. This morning, we went to a spring training game, Astros, Marlins. All the Astros starters were starting. Oh, most of them. There were 6 or 7. You had Altuve, Pena. You had all these guys. Framber Valdez was pitching for the Astros. It was a good time. It was a great time. But one thing that I didn't really notice before going into the stadium was that, like, the first 100, 200, it was the first certain amount of people got free signatures, got to meet some Astros players, get signatures about it. So I was like, sweet. I'm a professional Astros hater. I hate the Astros. Former co-host Micah loves the Astros. That's kind of why we went. But they bring out these, okay, I'm not going to say these two randos. They bring out this random guy. And who may this random guy be? Nick Hernandez. You guys might be like, who's Nick Hernandez? Like, why are you getting stuff signed by Nick Hernandez? That's what I thought. I was like, Nick Hernandez. I could see his, like, name on the table. I was like, what has Nick Hernandez ever done in his career? He's done absolutely nothing. He's pitched like 15 innings in the MLB. He's 28 years old. He's an Astro. He got drafted by the Astros, went to the Padres, pitched a little bit there. But in his 15 or so innings that he has pitched in his MLB career, he has given up 5 home runs. So I'm like, I'm about to get something signed by this dude. 2 of those 5 home runs were given up by Gunnar Henderson, the great one himself. Hey, maybe potentially first $1 billion contract to Gunnar Henderson. I'm just saying, side story, whatever. So again, we're waiting there. It's like we were waiting there for like 10 minutes. We had these wristbands. You had either a blue or an orange one. You didn't know which player was going to sign it. The blue ones we figured out was the Nick Hernandez one. So I'm with Micah, former co-host from, I don't know, a year ago, if you guys remember. And I'm like, he says something. He says, he doesn't remember giving up those 2 home runs to Gunnar Henderson. I was like, this guy has pitched only 15 innings in Major League Baseball. He's given up 5 home runs, 2 of them to Gunnar Henderson, one of the biggest names in the MLB right now. Pretty sure he remembers. He's like, no shot. So I'm like, $5. I bet you $5 that he remembers that. Now, this is all in the moment. I'm not really thinking of anything of it. And so he comes out. He's mad for some reason. He has a straight face. He's not like in a good mood or whatever. So I was like, whatever. This is for $5. Micah goes up, gets his Astros hat signed again. It's an Astro. You got to give respect to Micah. He's got to sign this thing or whatever. So then I'm after him. I have this wristband. Again, they gave us this blue wristband. And I was like, I don't have anything for you to sign. You can sign this wristband if you want. I feel bad for taking this wristband from somebody else. Again, I didn't really know what I thought it was going to be like Jose Altuve or something. And he's like, all right, whatever, sign it. I said to Nick Hernandez, hey, you have given up 5 home runs in your MLB career. 2 of them were to Gunnar Henderson. And I have $5 on this. I have $5 on if you remember or not. Me and him have a $5 bet if you remember this or not. And I'm like, do you remember giving up 2 home runs to Gunnar Henderson? And I say Gunnar Henderson, his eyes perked up. He's like, he's like writing, he's signing his signature. He hears Gunnar Henderson. He's like, what? And he's like, he like kind of chuckles and he's like, no, I don't remember. So he messed with the odds. I should have said, hey, remember giving up 3 home runs to Gunnar Henderson? And he'd been like, oh no, I only gave up 2. Whatever. He sells the odds. He sells me. I gotta give my brother $5. I'm a competitive dude. I don't like giving up money. I gotta give this Astros fan $5. After this, nobody signs this. So what I'm going to do to get that $5 back is I had this wristband right here signed by the one, the only Nick Hernandez. And the bids are starting at $5. And to get my money back that I had to pay my brother because he messed with the odds, the bids are going to start at $5. DM me, email us, anywhere you can get contact with us. For $5, you can have this Nick Hernandez number 72 signed paper bracelet. So that is what I had going on this morning. Was not fun. That part. The game itself was actually kind of fun. Watching Framber Valdez was fun and all that stuff. But Nick Hernandez, absolute nobody. $5 for his signature. I honestly think that this paper lost value by him signing it. What a disappointment. Like, that was just disappointing. I lost $5 to that dude. All right, let's move on to my favorite segment, Hall of Fame, yay or nay? All right, Hall of Fame, yay or nay? With the record-breaking extension, we have Myles Garrett. Does Myles Garrett belong in the HatTrick Sports Hall of Fame? Now, here we go. He has played in 117 games in his career with 102.5 sacks in his career, 250 solo total tackles. Let's see what he's led the league in. He's never led the league in anything. He is a 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, Defensive Player of the Year, whatever. He's never led the league in anything, which is kind of concerning, especially since you're supposed to be going into the Hall of Fame. But whatever. He's young. He just signed this contract. He has a few more years left. He's only 29 years old. He's got a few more years left. So as of right now, it is a nay. Myles Garrett does not belong in the HatTrick Sports Hall of Fame. But maybe that changes in a few years. We might come back to that. We might not. We'll never know. But it's a nay for now. Thank you guys for watching the 89th episode of the HatTrick Sports Podcast. You can listen wherever you listen to podcasts, including like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, even your Alexa. You can listen anywhere you want. YouTube for all the visuals. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and we will see you guys next week for episode 90.